who went out and made colonies of other countries. What the hell is going on? What hypocrisy. Yeah, our revolution was justified. Who wants to be a colony? But then we go right out and colonize other people. We colonized the Hawaiian kingdom. We colonized the Philippines. Well, actually, the Philippines were a colony of Spain.
Mm.
But nonetheless, they want to be free. They don't want to be
Right.
go from one colonial power to another colonial power. So see, there's some basis for what I say. Now we can debate it. What am I? I'm not God. So anything I say is debatable. It's questionable. I'm willing to, maybe I'm partly wrong. I mean, I'm open-minded. But I'm not, my writing is not baseless. It's not based on nothing. So Drop Guns is based on freedom for people from a bad government, and we want to do that. Don't go in and conquer the country like we did to not Nixon, but George Bush was going to turn Iraq into a democracy. A democracy. Who are we to justify that we're the god of democracy?
Well, what if
Free people and let them create whatever government they want. If we wanted to go into Iraq and kill Saddam and kill his top high command and then quickly get the hell out of there and let the Iraqis sort it out and create their own country the way they want to create it. I mean, kill Hitler, but don't take over Germany as a colony, which we still have them. We're still occupying Germany. But see, so I'm not against, maybe the idea of, going and blasting some brutal genocidal dictator like Hitler or Saddam Hussein. But, have some restraint. We're not God. We go into Iraq, we're going to turn this into a little America. George Bush.
Yeah.
Bullshit George, who couldn't even run his own country. He's going to create a democracy in Iraq.
Well, what about the Afghan war then? Because
Just another replay. We tried to turn it into an American colony.
But we didn't participate in it. We just funded it.
Well, that's just as bad. In other words, if we fund a government that basically we control, that's the same as if we were in there controlling. You see what I mean? You've got to leave people alone. Get the hell out of it. They say, what, we had $30 billion worth of military equipment, American equipment, that we abandoned and left over there. What the hell business does it have to be in there to start with?
Right.
What's it doing there? Well, we're trying to use Afghanistan against Russia and against Pakistan, and you know what I mean. We're trying to turn it into a base for American imperialism. But then the people wouldn't go for it, and ISIS is in there, helping to organize the people to kick our asses out of there. And we finally left with them having to chase us every inch of the way, finally got us out of there so fast. And then you got a traitor to America like Biden. He doesn't even pack up the $60 billion worth of American military equipment, which consists of things like advanced helicopters and airplanes and, the valuable stuff, Bring it back and then leave. Biden didn't evacuate one single piece of valuable equipment. Hundreds of up-to-date bulldozers. Well, we need these bulldozers back here to build our roads and stuff, you know? So you got traitors in the White House, Truman and Roosevelt, both traitors. I'm sorry. I wish that I didn't have to say these things. Makes me feel bad. Oh, look, here under Islam, ISIS is winning. Islam and women. Drop guns, foreign policy. Crusade facts. I talk about the Crusades, right? In a factual manner. And religions and races in Islam. Islam is not a monolithic thing. There's all kinds of Islams.
Yeah.
Shia, Sunni, and others. Jefferson and Islam. See, our conflict with Islam goes back to the early 1800s with Jefferson. You know, Islam's no angel. You know, they financed pirates that went out into the Mediterranean and into the Atlantic Ocean and stopped even American merchant ships trying to do business, right? And enslaved the crew and the passengers. I mean, Islam is no angel, and they need to be slapped across the face for every evil thing they do. But we don't go in and occupy Islamic countries and start teaching the women to smoke and drink. You know, just we spread bad influence. You know, we tell them divorce is okay, you know, and they try to tell their people that it isn't okay, and so forth and so on. They consider alcohol to be, you know, an addictive drug, and they don't want their people becoming alcohol consumers. Well, leave them alone. Don't be spreading alcohol into every Islamic countries. They consider alcohol to be a more dangerous drug than actual drugs. Fine, that's their culture. That's what they've concluded. Okay. Islam and Christianity. That's a good chapter, you know. So I think you'll like this because you're Orthodox, right? That here's the dirty little secret that I'll tell you about Islam, Christianity, and so forth. Here's the dirty secret that no one will talk about. Muhammad was penniless. He was a criminal that was being sought with the death penalty from his hometown. Medina was his hometown, and it was back in the age when each town, each city, whatever you want to call it, each urban area had its own god and its own religion and its own government and so forth. So Muhammad was a criminal in his home city, and he was under a death penalty. He had nothing. He had no money. He was hunted by the police of his hometown, and he had no followers. He had nothing. He was the most powerless human being on earth. And he was on the run from the police. And all of a sudden, within just a very short period of time, like in those days, a short period of time would be like a year, but within a year or two, he had unlimited money. He had unlimited weapons. He had hundreds and thousands of followers. Now, how did he go and he was in a city that loved him. How did he evolve in just a year or two, very short period of time in those days, from the the worst person in the world and the most powerless human being on the planet to being a powerful, enormously powerful guy who was able to create a religion called Islam and conquer a third of the world, conquer great nations like Turkey, great nations like Egypt were conquered by him. Now, who were his enemies and why were they his enemies? These cities were all these nations that he conquered in the Middle East were all Orthodox. They were Orthodox cities. They weren't Catholic cities. Catholics were in Europe. The countries that Muslim conquered were almost every single one Orthodox strongholds. Turkey was 100% Orthodox. Constantinople. Egypt was 100% Orthodox. Ethiopia was 100% Orthodox. And I can go country after country after country that today is the Muslim world. How did Muhammad conquer these great nations? These were really big, powerful nations. He did it with difficulty. He needed incredible amounts of money. He needed incredible amounts of weapons to conquer Turkey. You know, the Ottoman Empire became later the Ottoman Empire. But Turkey was an Orthodox powerhouse. Egypt was an Orthodox powerhouse. And the other nations were Orthodox smaller powers. How did Muhammad, this penniless beggar, this guy who was wanted by the police, who had nothing, all of a sudden he had everything it took to conquer the greatest nations of the Middle East. They were very powerful Orthodox nations. And who would want to give him all the money and weapons that he needed? Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is called the Roman Catholic Christian Church. What's the Roman doing in there? I thought these were European Christians. No, they were European Christians, all right, but they in the year 300, before Muhammad did all of this, by the way, before Muhammad took over everything, the Christians of Europe sat down and negotiated, very tough negotiations. They negotiated with the mighty Roman Empire. And guess what? They reached agreement called a merger, and the great Roman Empire that had tens of thousands of soldiers, billions of dollars, the Roman Empire was really a powerhouse. They had great universities, they had everything Muhammad needed, they had. And the Christians of Europe, who basically didn't have much, merged with the Roman Empire, and they were given all the weapons and money of Rome, the CIA of Rome, all the secret police, everything. They got control of every single. They became the Christian Roman Empire, which is called the Roman Catholic Christian Church. The Roman is there because the Christians of Europe were given or got in negotiations because the Roman Empire was in big trouble. I won't go into why they were forced to merge with these Christians of Europe, but they did merge. And these Christians of Europe got Roman Empire, CIA, police, military, money, weapons, power. So the Roman Catholic Church became the most powerful thing on planet Earth after they merged. Those Christians, they created the Roman Notice that's the first word. The Roman Catholic Christian Church. Why is the Roman the first word? Because you're looking at the Roman Empire. The Pope today wears two hats, literally two hats. One of them is the Vicar of Christ. That's this hat. The other hat is the crown. He's the Emperor of Rome. The Roman Empire never died. The Christians saved it because that's more complex. I got to say why the Christian. What did the Christians bring to the merger? They brought tough young men. You know, Christians. The Christians of Christ had big families. These Christian boys took over the whole Roman army. They became the legionnaires, and so the Emperor of Rome needed that young, strong men, which they didn't have because they'd all turned homosexual or they'd all become. The Roman birth rate went to near zero. That's how degenerate Rome became. They lost all their young men. They didn't have the Christians were the young enlistees that constituted the power of those legions. Christians breathed life and strength. The European Christians saved the Roman Empire because the Roman Empire was so degenerate they weren't even producing children. So it's a very complicated thing. If you study deeply penetrated history, you'd find what I'm saying is all the facts. I don't talk things that aren't facts. I don't spread falsehood. I spread the truth because I do the research and I do the digging. And I've spent my entire lifetime, almost century of work to find this information and connect the dots and weave it together into a coherent, pretty literate story. This is all a story. This one is about Islam.